Hey folks, here at OSMVTExperts.com. You're watching a video review or a retro review by today's standards of the Nook e-reader by Barnes & Noble Generation 1. This is a traditional e-ink based screen e-reader which conserves battery power and also prevents the screen from having horrible viewing angles, and also allows the device to be read under direct sunlight. In addition, again, e-ink screens resembles that of actually printed text, so it makes the display very crisp, very easy to read, and just seems like normal text on paper, electronic ink screens. The downside, of course, of e-ink screens is that they do take a refresh rate to occur in transition between pages, which can get annoying if you plan on reading for extended periods of times or extended text in particular when you're going on vacation. In terms of pricing, the Nook eReader Generation 1 originally came out of around $200 in terms of price tag range, but you can find it at a street price of around $100 in today's standards, which is fairly inexpensive now by most e-readers' needs and comparisons. The original version came in both iterations of Wi-Fi and 3G. The model that we have here is Wi-Fi, but you can also get a 3G version, which is a free service after you basically get the device. You can stay connected to 3G via AT&T wireless, and then you can download books and browse the web, or very basic web browsing, and purchase and download content without having an access to a hotspot or a Wi-Fi hotspot. Again, taking a look at the design in particular, it is a pretty compact e-reader and it feels pretty comfortable in the hand. The materials on the front are made out of plastic, and the back is made out of the soft touch material that makes the overall design very simplistic and easy on the eyes. It even has some design cues from Kindle series, including the white plastics used, and overall it's not a bad design at all. Again, the ink screen part of the device measures around 5 inches, and the bottom of the device is actually a touch-sensitive capacitive touchscreen, which runs off of a Android counterpart and allows the device to connect to Wi-Fi, browse the web, act as a QWERTY keyboard, and download content and the such. The buttons on the left and right hand sides are responsible for turning the pages. They have a small tactile bump to them, so they are pretty easy to press. You do have to press them downwards though as mechanical buttons rather than being touch sensitive ones, which we feel like was overall a smart choice because they aren't too overly sensitive in this case. On the bottom of the device, we have access to a 3.5mm headphone jack for listening to audiobooks and MP3 files. There's also a micro USB for charging and syncing information. There also are stereo speakers on this unit for listening to music without having to plug in a pair of headsets, which are pretty nice. The top of the device has access to the power on and off key, which is chrome edged and very easy to press, and you also have the ability to peel the unit off to change backplates to customize it to the color and liking of your choice, and of course to change the battery if you so do desire. It's actually not something the company wants you to do, but you can do by removing the back cover. Now, turning the unit on, again, is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to turn on, and pretty fast refresh rate for turning the device on at first. And battery life on the unit is actually pretty strong. Now, it lasts around a few weeks of testing and usage in our tests, which was pretty good. It's about the same as a Kindle e-reader. Of course, your battery life is going to decrease if you are connected to Wi-Fi a lot. And also, you have to notice that the color screen will drain battery life more than just purely black and white e-readers, such as some Sony devices we've tested in the past. Now, the interface is very easy to read. It consists of several icons, including the daily, which is you can sort by essentially some different updates and blogs posted by different people over the web. You do need a connection to the internet to do this, but again, you have some access to the daily blogs and some basic text content that you can sort through if you are into that kind of thing. And text, as you can see here, works very nicely and works fine. And the refresh rate is actually pretty fast, and the screen itself, the contrast rate is nice. There is a slightly grayish tint to it, but it's not too bad at all. Now, going home is also easy. There's the capacitive touchscreen sensor in the center that you press to go home. It's a little bit small for our taste. We would have liked to see the sensor be expanded, so it's a little bit easier to press, but it's not bad at all. The library is consisted of different shelves that you can flip through, and also different samples, and scrolling through the Android counterpart of the e-reader is also pretty easy. Sometimes, though, the touchscreen wasn't as responsive as we liked it to be. That's probably because the screen itself is a little bit small in terms of height, even though the width is nice. So we would have liked to see perhaps a larger screen on that section, that particular usage, but overall it works as advertised. Again, the shop allows you to go to Barnes & Noble, and you can search from different ebooks, magazines, and the such. And of course, there are free ebooks from the Barnes & Noble store if you don't want to purchase ones. You can set up from a Barnes & Noble account directly on your e-reader, which is pretty nice and easy to do as well. And as far as downloading content, again, this is a proprietary system. There are a few very basic text files will be recognized if you want to plug in your own ebooks into this device, but for the most part, it is proprietary to Barnes & Noble, which is a critique that we pointed out at the time. Again, the QWERTY keyboard you could bring up was pretty nice and pretty large on the screen and well designed, but again, it's going to have a slight delay on the actual e-ink part of the screen, but typing on the capacitive one is actually pretty instantaneous. For example, if we test it by typing on free, we can see that happen, and we can search that. And again, we can navigate the actual unit using the touchscreen part, and then you can see some search results and content from the e-ink part of the screen. So it's a little bit of an interesting interface here. So, you can slide back and forth by pressing on the corresponding keys on the screen, and then you can tap on the OK key on the right-hand side to go into a particular menu. Of course, you can also look at the cover art for the books here, which is a pretty nice experience overall. So taking a look at some other applications of this device, of course, in addition to reading some text and content, you can also search up different keywords and look up different words in the dictionary. So I can select through different words here, such as connect, and it's going to bring up the dictionary definition, which is nice, and something that's makes learning and reading on this device pretty easy overall. You can, of course, also highlight text and add notes to it like we did here, which allows you to annotate different texts as you read along, which is also pretty nice. It takes a little bit longer and takes the acclimation as opposed to actually writing on regular paper, but the fact that it has that feature on here is nice nevertheless. A few basic games are included on the Barnes & Noble Nook that include chess and Sudoku, and navigating them is fairly easy. You have some difficulties and some settings. Now, actually, you don't have access to actual, how to play the game directly from the unit, but you can play against a computer on various different levels, and it's a nice way to actually waste time on the go. And again, you have to scroll back and forth on the color touchscreen to navigate, and then the black and white screen shows a larger overall view. Another feature on here is the web browser that we talked about. It's a beta version of the web browser. It allows you to browse basic web pages and some very basic content, but not too heavy web content because the device will be overloaded. But again, since it does run on Android, it basically is able to handle most pages to an impressive extent. So if we type in Google here, google.com, we can check our basic email, our basic weather, and basic search information do work up and load actually fine. And again, you can see the Google one is loaded. Now, one disappointing factor is the fact that you can only, again, navigate using the color touchscreen part, and every time you want to scroll somewhere, the ink screen has to reset itself and reflash itself, which can get a little bit tedious and annoying over time. But again, as a basic web browser, it does work, and it is nice that that feature is included. For example, if we wanted to search Nook, we can see that it is feasible and possible. Connection over Wi-Fi on the unit is fairly strong in terms of reception, and browsing the web over our Wi-Fi speeds are fairly adequate. They might, it kind of stacks up with entry-level Android handsets, as you might expect. So we suppose the processor in here is around 800 megahertz, 500 megahertz or so. It's not super fast, but it's adequate. There isn't pinch-to-zoom support on the capacitive touchscreen, but it is bright and vibrant. There is a proximity sensor, so you will be able to see it automatically adjust even in darker environments or brighter environments and the such. And as you can see here, it overall works pretty nicely if you're looking for text documents to read, like Wikipedia or something like that. Just don't plan on looking at too many images and color photos and video content from the web browser. And essentially that's all. The device comes with 2 gigabytes of internal storage built in that you can upload with your own content. And of course, you are able to purchase other iterations with more storage on board that cost a little bit more. And again, prices start at $200 originally. And at the time, the Nook was a pretty revolutionary product because it made Barnes & Noble, a major competitor in the ebook reader marketplace, and kind of started the hype and propagated the hype for e-readers at the time. Of course, now a lot of tablets and smartphones are starting to dominate and reduce the need for most people to have e-readers, with Amazon Fire being e-readers that are with color screens, and people are beginning to accept that more and more, which is interesting because at the time, e-ink screens were popular because companies stated that people don't want to be reading on color screens, and now because so many people have tablets, that's starting to go away. But anyways, Nook is still a very powerful reading companion. If you are looking for an e-reader, it still remains a pretty powerful solution today. It's stylish, it's functional, it has a web-connected web browser and Android counterpart that makes it a fairly advanced ebook reader if you're looking for something with both an e-ink screen and the ability to connect to the web to directly download devices without the need for a computer directly. But you can also use a computer if you want. So thanks for watching this retro review here at osandvtextras.com. This is the Barnes & Noble Nook Generation 1 2GB Wi-Fi white version, also at our brother site at OS Tech News.